New Claude models can now weave an invisible watermark directly into the text they generate, and the mark can travel when you copy and paste it. Finding that mark still does not prove Claude wrote the document. Why this exists? The timing matters because this is not a small feature Anthropic added for convenience. Anthropic signed the European Union's new transparency code for AI generated content, and the related Article 50 obligations began applying on August 2nd, 2026. Those rules require providers to add machine readable marks that can help detect generated or manipulated content. Claude models launched in the European Union from that date forward are supposed to support marking from the day they launch. Anthropic also says the marks will follow supported Claude models worldwide, not only inside Europe. That includes Claude, the API, Claude Code, Claude Cowork, Claude Tag, and supported cloud partners. The announcement is therefore bigger than a badge inside one chatbot. Anthropic is changing what its models emit across an entire product family. Two different systems. The easiest way to understand the system is to separate it into two layers. Plain text receives an embedded watermark that you cannot see. Supported files receive signed provenance metadata that software can inspect. These layers solve related problems, but they do not work the same way and they do not survive the same kinds of editing. The text layer tries to keep a machine readable signal inside the words as they move between products. The file layer attaches a cryptographic record to assets such as SVG, PNG, and JPEG files. One follows copied language, the other records a file's processing history and whether the signed asset appears to have been changed. Combining them gives anthropic coverage across both conversations and generated media. The text watermark. Anthropic says a supported Claude model will weave an imperceptible watermark directly into generated text. The response should look and read normally because the mark is not a visible label or a block of metadata beside the paragraph. It is part of the generated text itself. That is why Anthropic says the signal can travel when someone copies the response into a document, a post, an email, or another application. The mark may even survive some editing. The important word is may. Anthropic has not published the detailed encoding or detector yet, so the announcement does not tell us how much rewriting the signal can tolerate. It does tell us that watermarking happens at the model level. That means the same supported model should emit the mark, whether it is reached through the Claude website, an API call, a coding tool, or a partner platform. This is a meaningful design choice because applications built on top of Claude do not have to remember to add the text signal after generation. But a hidden signal still has limits. Heavy paraphrasing, translation, mixing, or aggressive editing can make a generated passage harder to detect, and a very short passage may not contain enough information for a reliable result. Signed file provenance. Files use a different mechanism. When Claude produces a supported image or vector file, Anthropic says it will attach signed provenance metadata based on the Open C2PA standard. C2PA packages statements about an asset into a signed manifest that can be cryptographically checked. In practical terms, the file can carry a record saying that Claude processed it, along with a binding that helps a validator check whether the signed asset was altered. This does not make every claim inside the file true. It provides a tamper evident history from the signer. Think of it as a sealed processing receipt attached to the asset. If the file changes in a way that breaks the cryptographic binding, verification can reveal that the signed version and the file being inspected no longer match. The weakness is portability. Metadata can disappear when a person takes a screenshot, converts the format, resaves the asset through unsupported software, or uploads it to a platform that strips the record. The text watermark and the signed file record therefore fail differently. Text can lose its signal through rewriting, while files can lose provenance when their metadata or binding is removed. What detection proves? The most important paragraph in Anthropic's announcement is the limitations section. A detected Claude mark means the content may have been processed by Claude. It does not prove that Claude originally wrote the ideas, the facts, or every sentence. Someone could write a document, ask Claude to proofread it, and receive a marked result, even though the underlying work came from the person. The same issue appears with translation, summarization, formatting, and file conversion. Claude can touch content without being its original author. The material can also change after Claude processes it. A person can excerpt the marked output, combine it with human writing, or revise part of it before anyone runs a detector. The opposite conclusion is also unsafe. If a detector finds no mark, that does not prove the content is human made. The content may come from an older model, a short passage, an unsupported platform, or a file whose metadata was stripped. It may also have been rewritten enough to weaken the text signal. Detection therefore produces evidence, not a final verdict. The honest result is closer to this content carries a supported Claude signal, or no supported Claude signal was found. Anything stronger would claim more than the system can establish. Where it works. Anthropic plans broad coverage, but the rollout is not uniform. New supported models receive marking at launch, while earlier models are still being updated during a transition period. Embedded text watermarks are supposed to apply through Amazon Web Services, Google Cloud, and Microsoft Foundry when those platforms serve supported Claude models. Signed file provenance may not work on every partner platform because each surface offers different file processing features. That difference matters for developers. A team can use Claude through a cloud provider and receive marked text while still lacking the signed metadata path for some files. Anthropic also has not released the public detection mechanism yet. The company says technical documentation and third-party detection support are coming later. So the marking system is being announced before the complete verification workflow is available to outside users. Builders integrating Claude should treat the model level marks as one part of their compliance plan, not as a finished disclosure interface. Anthropic says developers still need to assess what Article 50 requires for their own products and services. What changes? The larger shift is away from guessing whether writing feels artificial and toward checking signals emitted by the system that processed it. Style detectors can confuse polished human writing with model output, and they can miss edited machine writing. A model level mark gives a detector something intentional to look for. Signed provenance gives supported files a verifiable history instead of asking viewers to judge pixels by instinct. Neither mechanism creates a universal truth detector. They establish a narrower claim about processing history. That narrow claim can still be useful for platforms, publishers, developers, and investigators if they present it honestly. The strongest version of this system is a chain of evidence, a detectable mark, a valid signature, preserved metadata, and clear disclosure to the person viewing the content. Remove pieces of that chain and confidence falls. Claude's watermark is best understood as infrastructure for provenance, not a machine that can declare who wrote a document. The next real test will come when Anthropic publishes the detector and researchers can measure how reliably the text signal survives normal editing.